Hi guys, Shanna here with Chit Chat Chattanooga, and I have a special guest today. Marcus Ellsworth is from right here in Chattanooga, at least now. And we're going to hear his story, talk about some of the work that he has coming up, and I'm so excited to have you here. You are such a gift. Like I'm so glad we met. Became friends. So tell us a little bit about your journey to get to Chattanooga. How did you even get to this city?
So weirdly enough, I came here to study psychology at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. And so while I was here, my plan originally was to just attend college, get my bachelor's degree, and then at times, I'm originally from New Orleans, so I was thinking that I would move back down that way. But very quickly, Chattanooga grew on me, and I fell in love with the place and the people and the creativity here and the art. And I'm not practicing any sort of counseling or therapeutic practice,
except when we have coffee.
And so
he's theraping me
among my friends. Yes,
friendship therapy.
But then from there I got involved with the creative writing scene here with a lot of poets and performing artists, and that is actually what I spent most of my adult life doing, is putting on shows, performing, writing. Traveled the country a little bit as a journalist. But in Chattanooga always was home. Even with that, even as a journalist, it was important for me that I didn't have to leave Chattanooga. I didn't have to go move to be one of the offices in LA or New York. And they offered that chance for remote work. And I'm glad that I've actually stayed here and been a part of this community.
So you know I'm Shanna from Louisiana. That's, of course, we love each other. I mean, we're like New Orleans.
Because
I mean, we can talk food.
For one thing.
Which is the love of my life. Anyway, I'm so glad you're here. So he is an incredible writer, and you do some work with some local organizations, Barking Legs being one of them. And Barking Legs has something really cool coming up. Tell us about that.
So Barking Legs Theater is 30 years old this year.
It's fantastic.
Only 10 years younger than me.
And only 20 years younger than me.
And so for that, we're putting together 22 nights in a row of events.
That's incredible.
From November 1st to November 22nd. These shows are going to include live music, theatrical performances, comedy, poetry, just also a lot of really weird French performance art, which is what Barking Legs is known for. For people who don't know, Barking Legs Theater was founded by Ann Law and Bruce Kaplan to create a space in 1993 when they got to Chattanooga. There wasn't really a space for modern dance, which Ann is a lifelong student of. There wasn't really a place for fringe art. There wasn't really a place for anything that wasn't very traditional theater and dance. Like there was ballet, but not much beyond that. And so they created this hub for performing artists in Chattanooga and surrounding areas.
For them to have a safe space to put up things that are not traditional.
Yes, and it and over the years, they've sparked so many different things that are in the art scene now. A lot of the spoken word and poetry that I've been involved in. Like I actually get my first performance in front of an audience in Chattanooga was at Barking Legs Theater. That's where I kind of caught the bug, really and truly. Our belly dance scene started at Barking Legs. A lot of the jazz and bluegrass, even found a support system at Barking Legs, and I worked there for a little while as their artistic managing director. And when people would say, "What is Barking Legs Theater?" our answer would always be, "Well, it depends on what night you show up."
True, which is great.
Yeah, and everybody. It's funny too because everyone over the past 30 years, as we've been reaching out and trying to get people to tell their stories and their experiences, finding out that everyone has a very different view of what that place is, and it's wonderful. It's really great.
But that's such a thing. I mean, they've been such an asset and an ally to the creative scene and also to the LGBTQ scene, which you and I are both members of. Talk to me a little bit about that, because I know that's important to your heart. Is we're in an area where there's some resistance to equality, and I know that that's something that's really big on your heart.
It is.
Tell me about that and how you're using that. You guys are using the work to push that.
Well, and it actually the local LGBT history and Barking Legs do have an interesting tie together. So in 1993, when they opened the theater, they brought in this performing artist, Tim Miller, who actually is going to be back this November. And Tim is an openly gay performance artist, and he was running a show at the time. He was touring around the country with it. That really talked about the AIDS epidemic and the impact it had on the community and his own personal experiences with it. It was very very personal show, a very intense and raw show. It had already gained some notoriety as on its tour. And when it came to Chattanooga, the theater got threatened. They had to bring in some extra security. And they were told, Ann and Bruce were told by some people in the community that they need to cancel the show. They need to not let this come into our town. Right. Their response was, well, we're putting on the show. We're just going to have some extra security for our patrons so that everybody feels safe coming to the theater. Yeah. So they did, and the show went off without a hitch. Tim actually was not fully aware of the threats until after the show. They were like, you're fine, you're good, come on in. And he actually wrote about it in one of his biographical books. He calls it The Battle of Chattanooga. Wow. There's a whole chapter about our town back then. That same year was the first Pride Festival in Chattanooga, which I think is also why Tim's show being put on was such a flashpoint for some people. Sure. That parade, the Pride Board had to sue the city to even gather because they tried to say that they couldn't hold the usual like nonsense of obscenity. Right. The Pride Board, of course, was threatened. There were some people who tried to organize a Klan rally to intersect with the Pride Parade, like almost trying to spark a whole riot. But they won the lawsuit to have the parade, and also because there were a couple of city council members who weren't complete bigots, they also shut down the opposing rally. We're like, we can't have these, creating intentional conflict. Yeah. But even in the parade, there's some of the drag queens who were there, talked about having beer bottles thrown at their heads, and a lot of real. It was not a purely joyous day. Yeah.
When you break the ground, sometimes it's not.
Yeah, but they stuck by their guns, and they went through with the festival, the parade, and everything. Had it on the riverfront, down the Ross's Landing area, if you're familiar with Chattanooga, and that's where Pride first started here. And then because of I like for people to keep in mind, this is the mid 90s. This isn't like 1968. This isn't even the 70s. This is not that long ago. Then Pride went through some different iterations over the years, and at one point moved out to one of the parks outside the city just for pure safety. And actually, those were kind of fun because when I got to Chattanooga, that's where it was. It was, I think it was Chester Frost Park where they had it. Okay. Yeah. And then they moved back downtown to into like the city center. And then when I came on as president, then we finally moved it back to the riverfront to like kind of reclaim the history and be like, let's go back where the original organizers intended for the festival to live. And Chattanooga has been an interesting place to be, to be queer in any way, shape, or form, but also to be an activist and advocate for our community. Seeing tremendous amounts of support pop up, and I think that's increased over the years. We have seen a lot of progress here. Chattanooga is kind of a little blue spot in the middle of red Hamilton County, and it's changing. It's it's getting better. We do still have a lot of hurdles that have to be overcome here. A lot of hearts and minds need to be changed, but it's all leaning towards improving.
Good. And Barking Legs has been an ally from the beginning. That's really important to point out. And so, that's beautiful.
Well, and Ann and Bruce,
but they've been consistent with their support.
And Ann and Bruce moved down here from New York, and so like they already were part of a very vibrant art scene that involved a lot of queer people, and a lot of their close friends, and like even some family members are LGBT. So for them it was a no-brainer of like of course they were going to support the community, and they volunteered at the Pride Festival that year too. Like they brought in this artist and supported him, which I think is also a very important like lesson in allyship. They didn't back down just because literally their lives were threatened,
which could have been scary, and their livelihood.
And they were new here. They didn't have a huge support system here like they do now. And I think about that, especially recently, like this year, when the state of Tennessee, was trying to define drag as an obscenity and like putting all these bans in and coming after trans people's health care and their right to exist. And we had several venues in town that had been hosting drag brunches and drag bingo and these things, making money off of our community now, who preemptively, before the law even passed anything, was still, I think it was still in committee, in fact, or maybe it had just come out of committee. But some of the venues started to pull their drag events and tell the queens that they had to go find another place to be. And like they made all kinds of excuses about it. They never said it was about the law, but like, why else would you?
All of a sudden.
Yeah, people are packing out your place and like on a Tuesday night, it's not for your beer, bruh. Like, it's because you have some really like talented entertainers who are like have a following and they're coming for them.
And they're bringing you.
And it was really disappointing for me. I was like, especially knowing that 30 years ago there was people who could stand their ground on it and really support us, and then others who like revealed themselves to be opportunists, which I think is something that I think our community needs to, especially in these times, needs to be careful of. Like, who are our actual allies? Who are the ones who stand by us, and who are the ones who are just fair with their friends? Like, we can't afford those because our lives are at risk. You know, we can't sit here and be like someone who we think is going to be supportive of us, or a place that we think is safe and supportive of our community, and then find out if there's pushback of any kind, you will abandon us. But I will say most folks did stand their ground. Like, we do have some really great venues who even like added more drag events, and we're like, yeah, you know what? Okay, so y'all aren't doing drag bingo on Tuesdays over there. Do your Tuesday night over here now. So it was ultimately, I think it was a good experience for our community to see both sides of that. To see the ones who really like were reaching out and welcoming us in, and asking what they could do more, as well as the ones who revealed themselves to not be quite.
Sometimes it's only in the difficult times and the challenging times you see who your real friends are.
And that's always good. Ultimately, it's good.
You know, to trust, right? But, you know, Chattanooga, I would just encourage you. You know, I get it that some people are afraid and they don't understand. You don't need to understand. What you need to do is love. You know, I have friends of all different faiths, and some of them here are a little afraid of the LGBTQ community. I'm not sure why, but the bottom line is, you know, love works, and whatever faith you're practicing probably teaches love. So you might want to dig into that a little bit. And if we could all just love and accept each other and be kind, I think that every God and goddess would be happy with us.
I agree.
But thank you for what you do in the community. You're such a light. Like, I always love talking to him. He's super intelligent. You're such a beautiful creative, and such someone who always seeks to bring a sense of community and a sense of acceptance to everyone and everything. And I appreciate that about you. And you work really hard in this community, in the creative. This is not the easiest. You know what I mean? Like, the creative world is not the easiest one. It's hard to be an artist, and it takes a lot of work to be such an ally that you are to so many artists, and giving voices to so many artists that have been passed over or not supported, and you've done that. So thank you for the work that you do.
And I think that it's through community that we make the difference for each other, and like even in the arts, especially in the arts. Like, none of us really do what we do alone. Like, you know, there's at least a tech crew behind the scenes, like making sure we're well.
It always takes so many people. People don't never understand. You know, the first time I walked on a film set, I was like, oh, it's a film set. And then when I saw 100 people,
it's a city
making this shot happen, I was like, what is happening? That's when I got obsessed. I was like, there was a girl just doing French fries, you know, readjusting the French fries, and I was like, wait, what? That's when I became obsessed with film and TV, because I saw what it took to make a story happen.
Even for like a 2-minute scene takes like 100 people, right?
And then you look at theater and how many layers of work in fashion, all of it. I mean, there's so many people behind the scenes that are not being seen, but are necessary to make that artwork continue. So it does take a community. So I encourage you, if you're here in Chattanooga, support the art community. Go to Barking Legs. Go see the shows. It doesn't matter if you are a member of the LGBTQ community. Be a supporter. Go to the drag shows. They're a blast. Bring lots of money, because you're going to want to tip everybody. They're hilarious and wonderful. Bring all your ones and fives, and just, I always just come out broke. I love it. And horse from like yelling. It's so fun. Like, it's so fun.
They'll earn that money.
Right? And you would just have so much fun. But even the shows that you put on, I mean, you're doing some really thought-provoking work here. And if you haven't seen his work, be sure you check it out. I can't wait to see these shows this fall. He's doing some really interesting stuff.
Yeah, I'm doing that, especially at Barking Legs is where I'm focusing.
Tell us about that new show.
So I'm launching a new show. Because previously I hosted like variety shows and open mics, and a couple of little weird one-off productions. But this next venture, I want to really steer into the unusual artists, and even work that more mainstream artists are doing that doesn't really fit with most audiences and venues. Calling the show Weird, Rude, Probably Cursed. And
that's like the story of my life.
I figured you would appreciate it. But
that's a weird, rude, probably cursed. Yeah, right. You know,
definitely blessed in your case. Well, definitely blessed in your case. But so it's like it's an invitation for audiences to try some new things, to
that.
open themselves up to the strange, to the things that are thought-provoking, but perhaps coming at you in unusual ways. Like, for example, absurdist erotica that happens to have a moral, like an Aesop's Fable, but X-rated. Or having poetic liturgies about a cult that worships wet hot dogs. Things like that.
You're intrigued, admit it.
These are just a couple of examples of what we'll be bringing to the show as it goes on.
So
but the very first one will be the first weekend of Barking Legs 30th anniversary on Friday, November 3rd.
Okay.
And we do have a sliding scale on tickets. So awesome. If you're feeling generous and you want to really support the theater's mission, you can go towards a higher end. If you're just going to the show, you could for like $20.
That's fantastic.
To support the artists themselves. And so I'm really looking forward to that. I'm hoping it'll spark some different conversations around the arts in Chattanooga. Well, that's the tagline for the show is an indelible stain on the arts. Because we feel like if you leave the show and you don't feel like a little weird about the fact that you paid for it,
then you've done something wrong.
Then we didn't do our job. But we also want you to feel like you're fulfilled. Like, you've had a different experience, that we're going to make you laugh. We're going to have fun with you.
Yeah. And make you think. Your stuff always makes people think.
Yes, because we're trying to be thought-provoking, but in a different way. Because I enjoy weirdo art myself a lot, like a whole lot. And this also is a chance for me to show my audience a different side of me. Because I think I have a reputation of, as you so kindly pointed out, that people think of me as this very warm and welcoming presence, which I am. That is very much a part of me. But I also am really into absurdity and horror and things that are a little twisted. Yeah. And I don't often share that on stage. Not like this. And because with my previous show, I refer to myself as your host and ringmaster. And in this one, I am just your pallbearer. Like, I'm just carrying you through. If you make it, that's on you.
If you don't,
it's a safe place, but
you might die.
We are not held responsible for what happens to you physically, spiritually, or mentally through the course of the show. We are merely
exciting is that?
Oh, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Honestly, I think it's such a testament to you and your heart, because he's always creating spaces and carving out spaces for people who don't fit. So this show again is just a prime example of his heart, of the way he loves people and accepts people and makes space for everyone. So you don't want to miss this. Marcus, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being in Chattanooga. You make it fun.
Yeah, well, it was fun to begin with. I'm just making it weird.
I love that. Thanks, everybody. Shanna here with Marcus Ellsworth with Chit Chat Chattanooga. Thanks for joining us. Be sure you go see his shows. It's going to be so weird. You're going to love it.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, everybody.